When you came home, did you ever feel tempted to return to the lifestyle that
Hell
you came
yeah.
from?
Hell yeah. You know, when I was I tell the story like how my first year I was like very adamant about not going back to the lifestyle. I knew that's not what I wanted. When I tried the lane of going to get my master's and it didn't work out for me, and I had my first breakdown, around that period, I was about to jump head first. Like I was already thinking I was talking to some people about some plays. I was already trying to like, you know what I'm saying, get my mind ready. I wasn't 100% motivated yet. I was like 85%, but that 50% of doubt was like, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I was about to make some moves, man. And we would not know who I would have been had I made those choices. You know what I'm saying?
Because it's so much easier to fall back to
It's a
like
call
previous
away.
habits.
It's a phone call away. Money's your motivation. Money's your problems. You're a phone call away of fixing all that.
You already know what to expect. You know what comes with that lifestyle. You know all the different things. I think that the scariest thing is the unknown, right? When you're doing something new, you pursuing this degree, you pursuing this, like going in this direction. How is it going to turn out? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
that's what's
yeah.
really scary.
Facts. And especially in the lane that I was trying to get into was fashion curation. It's like nobody in our world is in this lane, right? Like this is a white man space typically, right? This is like the bougie spaces, right? So I'm trying to build a resume. I'm trying to get my stamps in that, right? So it was definitely unknown, unsure. And I came to the realization that fashion curation and my studies around it was more of a creative passion, not a career. You know what I'm saying? Not something I want to work and do, right? So once I came to that head, I was able to shift.
Right, because like when you first came home, you ended up working for a congresswoman, right, or congressman?
Congressman,
Yeah.
former Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney.
What were you doing exactly when you were doing that job?
I was acting as a constituent servant. So I was servicing like basically kind of casework for the congressman's office. So if anybody had issues, you know, with their district, I was the one that would coordinate resources and connect them to certain things. So I had like a caseload of like 20 cases that I had to kind of like solve and find solutions for and then update and things like that.
And then you were also a waiter, like at a nice restaurant too. So you were working two jobs. You were
Facts.
pursuing your master's degree, and this is where it all ties into a pivotal moment of when you had that mental breakdown, right?
Facts.
Take us through that. Did you have like an anxiety attack, or like what was the experience like?
I think for the weeks up into that, mind you, I'm going through the thoughts of like, yo, I'm about to make this move. I'm questioning my reality now or my truth. What my truth was like, you gonna do this. Now I'm questioning that, right? So the whole up until that moment, and then days up until the moment, I was like feeling just like depressed. I was stressed. I was like, my shoulders felt heavy. I felt like I was walking with this heavy ass baggage, like, and I didn't want to hold this shit no more. I wanted to let it go. And that baggage was me being in school. That baggage was being broke. You know what I'm saying? So I remember, man, that I come off the train and it's like all those days and all those negative thoughts led to this moment of me just broke down crying. It wasn't even like an anxiety attack. I just like paused and like just started crying. I felt angry. I felt like I failed myself. I felt like depressed. I felt like, yo, what am I doing? I'm walking to school knowing I don't want to be here. Like, and it was just like that moment just parked me. Like, and I just started crying, bro. Just sitting there like, this ain't it, man. So all the feelings I'm trying to not face just came out through my tears. So it was, yeah, like a bunch of weeks or days leading up to this moment where I couldn't fake it no more. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to convince myself, like, nah, you could do this, bro. Like, you got this. You got into school. Mind you, the pressure for me was that, at least to my knowledge, I'm the first formerly incarcerated person in this program, right? So it's important for me that the school gave me the opportunity, and then it's also important for me to represent for my people. So I feel like I got a kick in this door. This could be history in the making right here. You know what I'm saying?
A
So
lot of weight to carry on
a
your
lot of
shoulders.
weight, man. And I just wasn't prepared to take on that weight. And I was holding it into that one day. It's just like, nah, this ain't it. So my breakdown was more like just a stop and pause moment and crying and really saying, yo, face the truth, bro. You don't want to do this.
So it
Word.
went from something that you wanted to do in prison because you pursued your undergrad to something you felt you had to do at that point. And it took like kind of like the fun out of it.
Yeah, it really wasn't easy because of, so if you know about like any social theory around how one can become their best version, their basic foundation has to be together, right? Like you have to have your basic needs met. You know what I'm saying? Your shelter, your income, your stability, right? If that's not met, you can't achieve nothing higher. You gotta.
Right.
So that was what my problem was. I was at the base level with no security around my basic needs. Well, I had shelter, but in terms of stability. So me trying to pursue education just was it didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense. I was not in no position for that.
During prison, did you ever have any of those kind of moments of you breaking down, or this was like the first time?
This was my first time. Prison, I haven't had those moments where I recall that I was like breaking down from my experiences. I mean, maybe thinking about my peoples and having a little moment of depression, but nothing too pivotal like that moment for me.
Do you feel like you held in everything in life that you endured and everything until like that moment almost like where you allowed yourself to?
Maybe, kinda, right? Like I think that was the first time I got to like think about the things I was holding on to that I never addressed, right? Been home those 10, 11 months, uh, thinking about all the relationships that I had and I lost. It was just a lot. Like it forced me to really think internally. You know what I'm saying? I started smoking again. I wasn't really a smoker. So like I started really like thinking about my life in another way. And I think I started facing some things that I really just, was leaving unaddressed.
Smoking cigarettes or smoking weed?
No, weed. I don't smoke cigarettes. Yeah.
It seemed like you had a moment of just being very overwhelmed by everything.
Perfectly said. Overwhelmed. You know what I'm saying?
So you end up leaving college, right? And what do you do then?
Pause for a second. Right. I kind of had to really think about what I wanted to do. And I was like, everybody up until that point was already looking at me like a poster child. Like, yo, because before coming home, I had graduated. So people already hearing about my highlights, right? So when I come home, they're like, yo, you should talk to the kids. You should get into that kind of work. It was nothing I wanted to do. But then now I'm forced to make a decision. Where do I go next? If it's not fashion, what's going to be my next move? How can I get a job using what I do have in my experiences? So I started reaching out to my, relationships and my peoples and my network. And, I reached out to, simultaneously, right? I reached out to Dr. Casada, the former superintendent of the school district, while also organizing a male support group. Because now
Right.
I'm like, that was my passion. Like I just started wanting to do that based on my own experiences, but then simultaneously for work, I was reaching out to the Dr. Casada, the superintendent, applying for mad jobs. I stood up for like 2 weeks straight, applied for like 40 jobs, got only 2 interviews, didn't get the jobs, right? And then I'm networking, you know what I'm saying? And then I connected with one of who was like a mentor at the time. He got me my first contract. So I started working in the schools voluntarily, building my like curriculum. And then I used that for the first contract I got. I got the first contract. And that kept me afloat for like a month. I applied for more jobs. I was just on the grind, bro. Like literally from late December, early January to like February, March, I was on grind time, touring schools until the pandemic hit. So the first 3 months of 2020, I was on grind time trying to figure it out, get into position. Never got into position until the pandemic hit.